Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rational Investors daily recap of the daily brief video. Gonna try again to get a little bit of discipline here. So if you hear the bling happening and you're watching this right now, yell at me, Brian, on to the next market. So I've got the mayor trying to help me, but let's see if we can try and get this around 10 minutes. As we've sort of been talking about quite a bit recently here, but not a bad idea just to review it because it is Thursday. Tomorrow is options expiry, so not a bad idea for us just to take a look at where the options boys would ideally like the market to go out. Keep in mind, institutions write most of the puts, and you can see up here around $300. Institutions are going to hit a monster home run. All of these put options will basically expire worthless. We've got the S&Ps, as I just showed you right now, sitting basically $300, $299.98. Curiously, last week, we did see quite a bit of call open interest. And it was interesting because they basically took the market out on Friday right at those call strikes. So I'm kind of wondering whether a lot of retail buying was coming in and buying these calls, anticipating big bull markets, face rips, and all that kind of stuff, paying pretty hefty premiums. And as long as Wall Street can get the market to close out right around the strike price, then actually Wall Street still wins on the deal. So we'll keep an eye on this, but keep in mind as well, too, that a lot of retail people do write call options, owning the underlying. It's called covered call strategy. It's a very popular way of generating income in the market. For a guy like me, what's most important is the put open interest, and you can see if they park the market out here, Wall Street's going to have a really good weekend once again. And really, that's pretty typical of Wall Street, isn't it? We just got through Humphrey Hawkins. I think it's winding up now. Market, of course, is just riddled with gaps all the way up here. So just like you saw how gaps up here, eventually the market has to roll over and come back and fill all this in. I fully expect at some point down the road, we're going to have some filling in. Moving on, kind of an interesting story going on here in that Overstock had just an absolutely insane face rip rally here over the past month or so. We bought some calls on this W, and maybe I can just hide the other one. Yeah, there we go. We bought this W down in here, sold a big whack of those calls at more than a double, got all our original capital back, was riding the free position. And on this day here, these options, and they were $20 calls. The options themselves traded as if the stock was trading at like $24, $25 when it was only like $18. So the premiums just got a little bit ridiculous. I was looking at those premiums yesterday, and I decided to hit that. I basically liquidated the overstock position. And on any sort of calming down, you can see this has basically been straight up. I might look to go buy the position back. But, when we get to crypto, if crypto has topped out here, my hunch is this kind of name has topped out as well. But on an interesting aside, there is another company that not recently, but in the past year or so, announced that they were going to be doing a cryptocurrency sort of play proxy. And it's actually moving up quite nicely here. And that's this Eastman Kodk. Now, is this a function of, the photography industry? Is this a function of their online presence? I don't know. We do a regular club meeting, and David O, big shout out to you. He was the one who actually brought this to my attention. I went and basically bought that W, and the trade seems to be looking pretty good here. We'll start jumping up and down and screaming and yelling if that 264 level is taken out. And you can see today's high is 262. So, we'll see how it goes. Any kind of dips against this double bottom, I wouldn't have a problem if you wanted to join me. But remember, I don't tout anything here in these videos. I don't make any specific recommendations on the site. I simply tell our community what it is I'm doing with my money. If you'd like to join me, you're welcome. But I do not pound the table. I do not tout. I do not promote ever, right? And, when we get into crypto, we should probably have a little conversation about that too. Long and short of it here is I am in this trade. If we do pull back against these double bottom levels and you are interested, you are more than welcome to join me. A name that we reviewed in the call this morning. Somebody had brought this up. Gold Fields. Interesting fundamentals. It's not a bad balance sheet. Low share count, trading a little bit below book value, trading at a pretty healthy premium, or excuse me, discount to cash on the books. And we went through and just sort of picked this company apart. Like I said, it's in the construction business. You'd kind of think that it would be in the gold business. I don't have that sheet in front of me, so maybe I'll do that another day. But interesting little coil that's developing here. You can see how the price of the asset has been consolidating really nicely here over the past little while. And we've been looking at this in our TRI SOF club for quite a while now. Looking at maybe buying like a December or January $2.50 call option. And as you can see, if we just do simple 50% retracements from last summer, and you also have this big old juicy gap, I think there's a pretty good chance we could work our way up into this 3.5 area. So from 2.5, that's kind of like that NIO trade. There's probably a good buck or two to be made out of that. So something for you to consider. Haven't pulled the trigger, but having said that, with this cute little W that's coming in here, if we close like this today, actually, I might even take a really good look at those calls before business is done today. Moving right along, suppose we should hop into crypto now. I definitely think that the politicians were obsessed about this Libra and Facebook and all that kind of talk heading into the Humphrey Hawkins. It was really interesting that, OG technicians, Mr. Bollinger Bands, look at my tweets. I was having fun chatting with him. He was commenting that up top here, this was looking pretty dangerous. And if it was going to fail, this is probably where it was going to fail. On the sort of higher time frames, like the weekly charts, we've been talking about this. Litecoin has basically fractaled out here. It came down and hit a big fat round number, $100 a coin. Somebody was telling me on other exchanges like Kraken, it went down all the way down to like $70 a coin. So it doesn't surprise me that it's basically hovering right at that big fat round number. So, when we look at something like Bitcoin, my message to the public has been that we're basically in a trading range. Huge, that wick up top, tail down below. You can see the market's just bobbing and weaving inside that range. And if we look at this chart, right, there is that range off of the daily charts. We haven't M'd out here per se on Bitcoin. So this hasn't technically failed yet. But this is going to need some cleaning up to do, because if we look at the lower time frames, there's been a lot of technical damage done to the charts on that break, and we've been sort of squawking about that on the site. I've been putting tweets out to that effect, that we now have basically a double divergence confirmed here. There's big divergence and then the little divergence. We had Willie Stupid. We had a nasty little M in OBV come in here. The sellers really stepped up here. It looks like the sellers have calmed down once that congressional testimony has been done. But long and short of it here is there is that big honkin' trading range. And it looks to me like right now we're kind of parked right in the middle of that range. And so I still think that for the time being, just as I said off of the weekly charts, we're stuck in a really, really wide trading range on Bitcoin. The problem du jour, I don't think is Bitcoin, it is the altcoins. I had taken and on the Broiler Chicken show, we even talked about this. We had this cute little bot set up come in on Ethereum. We also had an algo signal on this thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think I threw that on the chart as well. Yeah, so here is that bot setup. It was a 4-hour setup. And everybody watching this, we had a real debate as to whether, if it went beyond 66, whether this was still a valid bot. And I think we all got a lesson that maybe we shouldn't take these if they go beyond 66. So, even the old man, Beamish, can learn a thing or two. Long and short of it here, we rallied up, hovered at that bot level, and you can see the algo was saying, all right, time to get jazzed on the long side, and then boom, we just broke hard. That stop level on the bot and the algo trade was tripped up last night. And so long and short of it here, had you traded this, if your trading plan was a trade setups, then you had to walk away from this trade. It sucks. It's brutal reality of trading. You're never going to be right 100% of the time. You got to live with the results. What I'm concerned about with the altcoins is now, unlike Bitcoin, if we actually look, and this happens to be ETH, that MEX futures contract, but hopefully you can all see, that's a nasty letter of the alphabet. I always say, if you ever see the market smiling at you, be careful. It's getting ready to take your money. There's obviously no guarantees in this, but some really, really nasty technical action there. And unfortunately, when we look at the broader altcoin market, anything that's just sort of not Bitcoin, and probably I'm kind of thinking it's almost like it's if you're a POS coin, ironically enough, I think it's a tough market because how do you find value on these things? I think like Litecoin, Bitcoin as POW coins, it makes sense. You can sort of try and figure out what base value is, cost of production. But as we can see in the Litecoin space, things is looking very heavy here. I would encourage the community not to act emotionally through this. Yes, these altcoins are on their knees. But then ask yourself, why did you get into this space to begin with? If you got into this space to make a quick buck and you were just going to Vegas and gambling, fine, you lost. Maybe it's a good idea just to liquidate, walk away, take the tax loss. I don't think that a lot of people at TRI came for that Vegas experience. I think, being rational analysts, we looked at the fundamentals of these stories and we said we want to get involved and we want to be in this space. But this is a great example where fundamentals and technicals don't often agree. And I might make the argument that technically things are weak, but if you bought these things like Little Old Lady because you really like the story, then really maybe move your coins off of the exchange, put them in cold storage. You are invested in your story. And I thought it was interesting. Well, I think it's a little bit early. I do like this sort of notion of there's blood in the streets. And really, ironically enough, as sort of, contrarian investors, we actually want to be most interested when there's blood in the streets. And so part of our conversation today in the Daily Brief was, how bloody do the streets have to get for us to actually start getting interested in the long side of these names? I have taken little bets in the altcoin space over the past few months, not really anything sizable, and just sort of testing the waters. You can see how close we are to getting stopped out on these things. So I still think that the market's relatively weak, valued in Bitcoins. But the interesting thing is if we look at these in US dollar terms, actually, they're just bumping along, going sideways. All right. I don't want to spend too much time, but I thought, those points needed to be addressed. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. All the best. Good luck in following your trading plans. Really ask yourself, look in the mirror, why did you invest in these names to begin with? If you believe in the story, then you're just invested in the story. And don't get too sucked up in sort of systemic risk, all about exchanges and delistings and stuff. But make sure you have outs. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. All the best. PMA